My next guest has many talents. He's a journalist, a writer and author, but he's probably best known as co-presenter of the greatest motoring television program in the history of motoring television programs. Each week he and his co-stars Jeremy Clarkson and Richard Hammond take us on a full-throttle edition of Top Gear, which of course has become not only a huge success in Australia but right around the world, and in fact it's one of the world's most popular television programs. If that isn't enough, he's produced a number of fascinating documentary series that probably focus on what seems to be all the stuff I used to love as a kid. He's also just returned to the UK after finishing Top Gear Live, the world tour, which of course took in Australia and New Zealand. I'm speaking about none other than James May, and he joins me on the line now. Good morning, James.
Good morning to you, sir.
And my friend, firstly, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. And I guess first question is, how did you find your time down under?
Very good, actually. I mean, it's the first time I've been to Australia for about 10 years.
Oh, really?
But it was pretty much as I left it. It's still extremely big, still quite a long way from everywhere else, and still full of coot utes. So, yeah, everything seemed fine in Australia. I wasn't worried about it.
And how did you go with the shows, my friend? I was lucky enough to see the show last year. Unfortunately, I couldn't get to Sydney this year. But you guys really do. It must seem like you're rock stars at times.
Well, yes, I mean, we do like to indulge ourselves with that idea that we're going out onto the stage and saying hello Sydney, and it's quite like being a rock star. But then in other ways it isn't, because we are a bit decrepit and we spend quite a lot of time, in a massage chair dealing with our backache rather than indulging in cocaine-fueled romps or any of that stuff. So, yeah, it's rock and roll on the surface, but we're a bit sort of depressingly normal deep down. Sorry.
It probably comes with just getting on in life, I suppose, James, isn't it?
Well, it does. I mean, I know that, Roger Daltrey from The Who, he actually likes a cup of tea when he comes off stage these days, but then again, he's 60 or something, so he's allowed to.
Yeah, I think he's earned that right, hasn't he? I wanted to ask you firstly, I mean, obviously, Top Gear has become a global phenomenon. Are you ever surprised of just, A, how it's come about, and B, just how successful it's become?
Yes, I am, to be honest, because, I mean, when I joined, which is 7 years ago now, we never imagined that it would become something quite as cultish as it is. Mm. I might have been slightly scared of it if I'd known that at the time, but there you go, it happened, and it's very flattering, and it's very nice to go around the world and for people to say, hey, you're that bloke off Top Gear, and I think, well, how do you know? You're Australian. But of course, you can see it in Australia, and you can see it in India, and you can see it everywhere.
Exactly.
So nowhere is safe.
From the Top Gear juggernaut.
Yeah.
And I suppose the other thing that really, I guess, has cemented it is the relationship and the chemistry that you and Jeremy and Richard appear to have on screen. Are your mates off screen as well? Does that sort of carry through to normal life as well?
Yes. I mean, the thing is, we spend so much time together working. We don't very often go out for dinner together or anything like that. But we do occasionally. And, it's not a purely professional relationship for television. That is pretty much what we're like. Obviously, it's slightly exaggerated and it becomes a bit of a caricature for the purposes of television. But, you're seeing the real people. Our foibles are distorted and placed slightly under a magnifying glass. But that's what you do with your mates. If your mate's got a big nose or something, you pick on that and that's what you talk about, and you ignore all his good points.
And I think again, looking at it from the outside, you do see that, the relationship that you guys have on air. I think, and to me, people have often asked me what I think the secret of the show is, and to me, it's that chemistry. I just don't think it's something you could replace easily, I wouldn't have thought.
No, I suspect not. I mean, one day you will have to replace us because we can't do it forever, and I hope that Top Gear as an idea can survive beyond the people who currently present it. Mm. But if you put a different group of people in, it would have to become a slightly different program, yes, because it is all, these days, I mean, more than in the early days when we concentrated on cars, these days it's all hinged really around the way we are and our attitudes to these things. We can't help that. We can't shake it off. So, yes, it would have to change if it was someone else, but I hope that there will be someone else who can do something with it. I mean, Top Gear has been around since 1976. It existed long before we got hold of it, and it will exist after we've let go of it.
Yeah. I was sort of a little bit interested to know, how did you actually get that gig, James? Because I've read Richard Hammond's book, and he sort of explains about how he got there. How did it come about for you?
Honestly?
Yeah.
I rang them up.
Oh, truly? It was that easy?
Well, I mean, the process beyond that was quite complicated, and it took a bit of convincing. But I already wrote about cars for the newspapers and magazines, and I did some stuff about travel as well.
Yep.
And I did a few columns, and I sort of vaguely met Jeremy a few times and the producer, Andy Willman, and I knew Hammond a bit from, going on car launches and things like that. And then I heard that they needed a new presenter, so I just found Willman and them and rang him up and said, I'll have a go at that. And they got me in for a screen test, and they tested a load of other people, but they couldn't really find anybody better than me, it seems, which is not meant, I'm not trying to flatter myself. I'm just saying that's how poor the quality of the applications was. So in the end, they had to give it to me.
Well, it's worked brilliantly well, my friend, that's for sure.
Yes, I mean, it's nice. There's been some spin-off bits. I've been able to go and make some other ideas that I wanted to do for a long time. I mean, you were saying, I think, that I seem to have done a lot of things that you dreamt about doing when you were 12.
Yeah.
But that's exactly how I've approached it, really. I thought, right, what were the things that I was really got very excited about as a kid, and that I know people are still excited about deep down, and I'll go and do it on everybody's behalf. I'll go and live out the 12-year-old fantasy for everybody who wanted it. That's sort of the other. So you do things on space, things on toys, things on 20th century inventions, drinking, that sort of thing.
And
so I wouldn't do something about global warming, for example, because that's not something I got excited about when I was 12.
You're right, there's got to be a passion there for you to get interested in something, doing something. But again, I think that's what comes out in those programs, and I think that's what makes it such fascinating watching, not just for, I guess, people of our generation, but I know my two young girls love watching those programs with you. We were watching the one about the Spitfire the other night that was airing on TV here, and they absolutely loved it.
Good. Yes, no, that did seem to be quite popular with kids, which surprised me, because I thought, the whole hobby of making plastic models, which was so important when I was a kid. I mean, I don't know how old you are, Russell. You're not my age, are you? But
I'm 43.
You're 43. Okay, so you must be similar. That everybody did it when I was a kid. Everybody made plastic models and painted them and bought them for each other for their birthdays and that sort of thing. And then it seemed to disappear and become a sort of nerdy adult hobby for sort of slightly boring blokes with beards. And I thought, I'm never going to get kids interested in this again, not when they've got, all these fantastic video games and so on. But amazingly, once you'd shown it to them and got them into it, they sort of thought, yes, actually, sticking these little bits of plastic together is quite interesting. And a lot of people have said that their kids have said, please get me an Airfix model to make, and off they go.
And you're right, it was something that I think when I was looking at it, you think it just brought back so many memories. And we'll talk a bit more about it in just a sec, but it brought back so many memories. And again, it sort of prompted my daughters to ask me, did you have that sort of stuff as a kid? And it was just great.
Yeah.
The other stuff I want to just quickly flicking back to Top Gear for a second. You guys have done, from a motoring perspective, you guys have done so much. Those challenges are just absolutely incredible. You think of the North Pole and again the USA special aired here just a couple of nights ago, and it was an absolute riot. It was just incredible. I mean, do those challenges, they must take an enormous amount of time to prepare and to script for or to plan for.
Yes, they do, and this is one of the things that people often don't appreciate when they say, "Oh, we'll do a program in the Top Gear style, or we'll do an event in the Top Gear style." They think if you just get three blokes who are a bit rude to each other and put them in front of the thing, that will do. But in actual fact, there's a massive logistics sort of operation like the invasion of Europe going on in the background, and a lot of very dedicated, very underpaid, hard-working people slaving away into the night to make it all happen. I mean, simply. To get the sort of film we get out of one of our big drive challenges, you need several film crews on it. And each film crew has the cameraman and the sound man and the assistant, and then all the stuff has to be moved around the world, and then you have to have people to look after the kit and people to do the carnet for the gun. The whole thing is just terrifyingly complicated. And in fact, if it was left to me, Jeremy and Richard to do it, everything would be made in one of our kitchens, probably. That's as far as we'd get.
And I think the thing with this other thing we noticed on the USA Challenge, it's not just the production. There's a lot of other stuff that goes on that can make life a little bit scary at times, I guess.
Oh, well, you're thinking of the rednecks in Alabama.
Yes, that's what I was referring to.
Well, yeah, I mean, we were a bit naive in that because we'd been talking to some Californian blokes and we told them about this idea, and they said you're absolutely out of your minds. They'll shoot at you. And we said no, they won't. It's just a bit of a joke, and they'll see it for that. But actually, the Californians were right. They didn't take it very well at all, and it was actually slightly frightening.
Well, it looked that way too, I've got to tell you.
Yeah, they're all armed down there, you know.
Yeah, I did see that, and the bullet holes were sort of everywhere.
Yeah, nobody comes to look for you if you disappear, I think. That's the...
Well, fortunately, you made it back. James May, we're going to take just a very quick break, but when we come back, I'd like to talk to you about the Toy Story series and also the book that's come out supporting that as well. My very special guest on Motor Talk this week is Top Gear's James May, and we'll be back straight after this commercial break.